Ladies, gentlemen, thanks all so much for joining us on our spaces this evening. My name is Terry Antibet. I will be moderating a conversation with Miss Grace Vihenda. She's a manager, innovation and sustainability at Kenya Airways. And this conversation is mostly around the Aviation Challenge, which I'll tell you a little bit more about, as well as Kenya Airways and what the airline is doing from a sustainability perspective. The Spaces is hosted by Mwango Spaces, who have done an incredible job on Twitter over the last couple of years and who bring us a great analysis of what's happening around Kenya's economic space. So if you don't already follow Mwango Capital, you don't know what you're missing out on, so please do. So a quick background. Now, since 2022, Sky Team has been organizing the Aviation Challenge, where about 20 other airlines conduct a special flight. These airlines test various ideas to reduce the flight's impact, that's on carbon emissions and on social impact as well. The Aviation Challenge harnesses the power of friendly competition among the members of the Sky Team Alliance to drive change in aviation as the industry charts a path to net zero. Participating airlines operate short, medium, and long haul flights that are already part of their network with the aim of making them as sustainable as possible. In 2024, the Aviation Challenge focuses on adoption with the emphasis on the need to scale innovations across airline operations. And of course, as a participating airline, Kenya Airways is focusing on systems thinking, seamlessly integrating sustainability into data analysis, operations, and decision making. So, ladies and gentlemen, tonight this X Space is an opportunity to discuss the initiatives by KQ with an emphasis on the Aviation Challenge, which I've just spoken about, these specific flights and their anticipated outcomes, as well as highlight some of the good work being done to integrate sustainability across all airline operations. So the theme for tonight is adopting sustainability, small changes making a big difference in aviation. And I am speaking with Grace Vihenda. She's a manager innovation and sustainability at Kenya Airways and is extremely well placed to explain the strategic approach being undertaken by KQ in this year's TAC, as well as the long-term impacts and the adoption of sustainability and what this is likely to have on the airline. So Grace, thank you so much for finally making it to the spaces. I know it can be quite hectic in the beginning, but I'm glad we're all here. We've got an incredible audience as well who I would like to thank. So Grace, you're welcome.
Thank you so much, Terian.
We can start by getting to know you a little bit. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do at Kenya Airways.
Thank you, Terian, also for the opportunity to speak with you today. Currently, I am heading up innovation and sustainability at Kenya Airways. It's been quite an interesting journey for me at Kenya Airways, starting off in engineering and moving on to operational excellence and then strategy and then commercial, and now taking care of both innovation and sustainability. So it's a very exciting role that I am very privileged and happy to hold. And what would you like to know about my role, Terian?
I'm curious about what your day looks like in innovation and sustainability, especially as you have mentioned after moving from the engineering side. So what's a typical day like?
A typical day is about, on one hand, haggling about the different ideas that come into the organization through different stakeholders, trying to run through those onto our governance process for ideas, refining ideas. Some fail, some work. And on the other hand, looking at different ways to embed sustainable practices into organization, all the way from the strategy and into day-to-day operations. So basically, I have to balance between those two aspects.
How does the role and department as a whole, and I know you have alluded to this a little bit, how do they contribute to the day-to-day operations of the airline?
Okay, so on the innovation side, it's about one, looking at the different situations we find ourselves in and looking for different solutions, trying to help the organization to think differently about the same problems or to innovate around new problems that could potentially come for the airline. So it's like twofold, where you're leading and at the same time you're in the operation. So it's as to play into it. And so what that does is that we help the organization come up fresh ideas about different things. We help our staff to think differently as well. trainings that we do that help our staff to be more innovative and to think more innovatively. These trainings for our leadership team and helping them to be able to inculcate a culture of innovation in their organization. And on the other hand, sustainability really is a philosophy. I would put it like that. It's a philosophy, a way of working and running a business. It's not necessarily the thing that you do on the side. Now let's do sustainability. No, actually part and parcel of what the organization does every day and is ingrained in the actual strategy of the company. That is the role that I play in terms of now driving that strategy and embedding it into the main strategy of the organization. And on the other hand, calculating a culture of innovation in the company.
All right. And we will be unpacking that as we go along. And if I can wear my journalism, sustainability is one of those places where we think many organizations use for greenwashing to look like they're doing something good. So hopefully KQ is not one of those.
No, we are not.
A little bit more about that. Perhaps you can just tell us what are some of the general sustainability initiatives that KQ was undertaking before the Aviation Challenge or is taking alongside the Aviation Challenge?
We view sustainability as beyond just looking at the environmental aspect. And we know quite a number of our fellow airlines, like for them, sustainability is just environment. But we find that in the African context, it actually makes a lot of sense for an organization to make it more holistic. So we have the social aspects of it as well and the economic aspects of it, so that how we look at that sustainability is more holistic. So, for example, on the economic side, some of the things that we're looking at is how do we improve the economic performance of our organization in such a way also that we drive a lot more revenue to our local suppliers who also are not that well placed to supply to aviation, unfortunately. So it means actually that we are actually beginning to look at how do we improve how we engage with the supply chain locally to actually enable them and help them to be able to supply to us, and then we can get to pay them. And that way we're actually strengthening our local ecosystem. That's just an example for that. And one of the things that we have been doing is we're looking for ways to work with startups, like clean, pure startups, to help bring solutions into the industry and into our organization. People who typically would never cut it for the regular RFP process of a big company like ours. So basically giving them opportunities in a competitive way for us to partner with them on different solutions. So it ends up being a win solution for them because you get a good solution at a good price, and at the same time, you're developing an SME to be able to actually deliver services into the organization. That's just an example on the economic side. On the stakeholder well-being, we have quite a lot going on our employee side, the things that we're doing our employees to improve their well-being. And when it comes, for example, to women empowerment, we have a lot of initiatives that have been running across this year and last year to see that we're actually having more and more women rising up the ladder and being in leadership positions, top leadership positions in the company. We've done quite a bit on disability inclusion, which is a really important aspect of being an employer. In the past, we haven't been doing very well on that, but now we really have highlighted it. And you probably have seen a few articles here and there of the different kinds of people that we are including in our workforce, as well as improving the services that we're giving to our customers who have disability, and also in terms of how we engage our customers. And then on the environmental side, last year we implemented electrical vehicles at the airport. We've done quite a bit on waste management and upcycling. Actually have officially an upcycling studio that's doing amazing stuff in terms of just getting waste that's across different parts of the company and turning that into something beautiful that you can buy at Terian and put in your house, either a flower vase made of a wine bottle, and actually they're very beautiful. Yeah, you can actually check it out, our upcycling studio. So we've been doing a lot of prototypes, and then we make sure that we work with local artisans to be able to come up with the designs, so that as much as we are turning waste into treasure, we are actually also impacting lives of the local artists. Also, we're just about to launch a fuel plant. We are turning waste plastic into diesel. It's a beautiful circularity story because it's plastic waste that we have, as well as also buying other plastic waste from different quarters and just turning that into fuel that we can use for our stationary engines, our diesel engines, and things like that. So it's been very exciting walking that journey to a point where we've actually built the plant on site. And by the way, we worked with a startup. A pure startup just had this thing running in the backyard of his parents' home as an experiment. And now actually it's a factory that we're just about to launch in our organization. So those are some of the things that I would highlight. However, we have bigger plans around becoming net zero. That actually is quite difficult for the aviation industry. But the most important thing when it comes to flying net zero is the fuel itself, because you realize about 98% of our emissions actually come from the fuel itself.
Yes.
So if you don't change anything about the fuel itself, then you just will be doing things that just are like a drop in the ocean. It won't really move the needle anyway. So part of what we're doing is we are working with, again, a local startup to do sustainable aviation fuel. Actually, right, that's get sustainable aviation fuel, you have to import it. And guess where a lot of those bio feedstocks come from? That's like the raw materials for making sustainable aviation fuels. Guess where they come from? They come from Africa.
Really?
They come from Kenya, yes. But now we export it and then it's made, and then we have to buy it back. And you say this doesn't look right. Identify the startup that you're working with, actually also helping them to expand. Again, now there's a factory in Kwale that's doing this. It's like on a test stage of actually in sustainable aviation fuel. So when it's successful and becomes commercial, guess what? You'll actually be able to fly on sustainable aviation fuel that's locally sourced and actually strengthening our African economy, as opposed to just taking out our money and just paying outside there when we actually have talent in-house.
Wow.
Yeah. That's like a drop in the ocean. Based on how much you ask, that's what you get.
Thank you so much. Personally, I'm really excited and curious about this local sustainable fuel. I think after this chat, I'll just follow up to get to know a little bit more about it. But speaking about sustainability, and this is a very personal call, I'm insanely crazy about aviation furniture. So I hope that's something that you're also doing from all your old aircraft and turning that into this beautiful aviation wing type furniture, which I think is absolutely stunning. But that's a very personal call. I know who I will reach out to about your old aircraft.
Yes, talk to me about that. We actually have an old aircraft that we need to take apart and kind of project. So happy to engage on that.
Super. Well, thank you so much, Grace. We'll just now move on to the next question about the aviation challenge. I did a little brief about it in the beginning. For the sake of those who have just joined in, tell us a little bit about the aviation challenge, what it is, who's participating, and why should we know more about it?
Okay, so the Aviation Challenge is a friendly competition among airlines in SkyTeam. SkyTeam is an airline alliance, and actually Kenya Airways is the only African airline in that alliance. We're now about 19 airlines, and if I mention some of them, most of the major airlines like Delta, KLM, Vietnam Airlines, Korean Air, Air Europa. So there's quite a good mix of airlines from different regions. And so under the SkyTeam Alliance, in terms of engaging members around sustainability, the decision was made to have a friendly competition every year. And this competition, the purpose for it really is just to stretch us to think beyond the normal. But what I love the most about the Aviation Challenge is that it gives that burning platform a sense of urgency, because we have this competition. We need to start showcasing in, say, September. We have between September and October, and we have to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So really, it gives us that pressure, a very friendly kind of pressure, that helps you have the timelines that you'd want to accomplish different elements or different aspects of including sustainable practices in the organization. So personally, that's the one thing I totally love about the Aviation Challenge. And so with that burning platform sense of urgency, we actually get to do things faster than we would have if we didn't have that kind of pressure. And then also the beauty about it is we get to learn from each other. This year, when we're doing the actual showcase, I'll get to see what Delta is doing, what Saudia is doing, what China Airlines is doing. And I'm thinking, okay, maybe we can try this and that next year. Like we can put a different spin on this. And so that kind of knowledge sharing also is very good, because all these airlines come up with very creative ideas around different things. And so as a body of airlines, we get to learn from each other, we get to discuss, we get to improve on each other's ideas. And so you find every next year's challenge is better than the last.
We're really looking forward to seeing more about it. And hopefully KQ will get some awards this year.
We will get awards, Terian.
I like the concept at
We
least.
will get awards, Terian. Just to highlight the first year, that was last year, but one, we got an award for best partnership because we partnered with NAS. NAS is our local caterer here. Oh, it's not like local, but the one who caters for us in Nairobi. So we work together with them to provide organic meals on board, like 100% organic meals on board. So for that, we got like a best partnership award. Last year, we did our first flight or flying on sustainable aviation fuel, which we had bought. The one I was saying, we bought back our fuel. So that's what we did last year. And actually, we won an award for most impactful breakthrough on SAF because of the kind of effort that we put in to actually make a supply chain that doesn't exist to work. And over and above that, to actually begin to do to explore local supply of a sustainable aviation fuel, actually, which is a first in Africa. No one else in Africa is trying sustainable aviation fuel.
That's fantastic. And I hope the journalists in the room this evening will take that on and just tell us about it, because I had never heard about it, especially that it is actually being done here in Kenya by a local entrepreneur. I think that's incredible news. So let's go to the next one. How exactly is KQ participating in this year's TAC? Could you tell us a little bit more of some of the initiatives being undertaken by KQ?
Okay, so for this year's TAC, one, we're looking at reducing our single-use plastic on board, and one of that we've been able to do. Every time you fly, you would notice that we have the headphones packaged in a plastic, like a single-use kind of plastic. And what we are doing different is that we went into our junkyard of the things that are usually thrown away. That's actually our treasure store now. And we picked old blankets that we used to have that are on their way out to being disposed, and got casual workers to make nice little draw bags so that we use those and they're reusable. Yeah, so these draw bags, that's why we're going to be putting in the headsets. Instead of packaging the blankets in, again, a plastic wrap, we made ribbons, again, from old blankets that separate the blankets, and we really don't need to use the single-use plastic. Also, for the economy class, there's plastic that we used to use on food, but now we're using aluminum. The aluminum foils, which are also recycled. Yeah, so like after use, they're recycled and it's not just thrown away like the way we used to have for the single-use plastic. When it comes to solid waste in the cabin, now we are having it sorted on board, rather than everything being bunched together, put in one place, and then later somebody else comes to sort out. So that sorting really adds a lot more value on the actual waste itself. And then also we have a lot of partnership with the different suppliers who are doing different things, including, again, NAS, in terms of providing organic meals on board. And there's a menu actually that we've created for business class that's like fully vegetarian menu, 100% locally sourced food, and 100% supporting local farmers. So that's the other thing that we're doing. On the aircraft, we are using the 787 Dreamliner that is already a very efficient aircraft, and want to continue to see how to improve our fuel practices and efficiencies by using this aircraft. So those are the main ones that I can highlight, Serian.
All right. Thank you so much, Grace. How are these initiatives being considered for the long term? And you have highlighted some really good initiatives on the recycling of the blankets. What are some of the longer term initiatives?
So the longer term initiatives actually draw from the actual things, because we use also the Aviation Challenge like a test lab. So for example, what I was telling you about using old blankets and making them into draw bags for headsets and items that are usually on board in plastic wraps, we're going to do it for flights. That's for the Aviation Challenge. But now with time, because we've seen, one, we're going to save actually on the cost of the plastic. And so we're going to scale it slowly over time. So across the network over time, you'll find that actually we are getting rid of plastic. So yes, it starts as an experiment in the Aviation Challenge, but we find ways of actually scaling and making it more permanent. Like what we did last year with the sustainable aviation fuel, we bought it. But over and above that, there's the efforts that we're doing towards local supply of sustainable aviation fuels. And for example, by the end of this year, we want to make sure that this plant and this startup we're talking about is fully certified And hopefully by 2025, we should be able to go commercial. Like other airlines can be able to buy the fuel from this company. Those things are actually starting as experiments, actually is what's turning into long term, and we embed it into our practices.
Fantastic. What flights are participating in the Aviation Challenge and why?
We have 4 different routes that we've identified. So one is the Amsterdam route, and that happened on 4th September. And the reason we did that is because Saturday, tomorrow, is the International Day of Clean Air for Blue Skies. So that's the significant. That's what we are celebrating through this particular flight. And then 16th September, that's in another 10 days, we will be having the International Day for the Preservation of the Ozone Layer. And for this flight, the TSC flight that will be running on that day is the JFK flight. So if you're going to be on the JFK flight, you'll see all those things mentioned on that flight. Wednesday, 2nd October, is the International Day of Climate Action. And so for that, we're going to do the Paris route, both going and coming back, to celebrate the International Day of Climate Action. And then finally, London Heathrow, 24th of October is the International Day of Climate Action. So we're actually marrying the themes with the different routes that we're doing, and also the kind of, historically, you'd find there is something that happened in Paris when it comes to climate change and all that. So we're trying to marry those with the actual big days of celebration and the flight itself.
Thank you. And all the very best for that. And if anyone within the audience will be traveling on either of those dates, that's the 11th of September, that's Nairobi JFK, and the 2nd of October or the 23rd of October, we're hoping to see your tweets about it. The next question, Grace, on how is each of these flights expected to improve sustainability in its operations? So you've told us about 4, one has already happened, there's 3 to go. So how are each of the flights expected to improve sustainability?
Yes, so there's different things that we're trying out, new things in all those flights that I mentioned. And there's going to be like a cost benefit analysis, because at the end of the day, there's this myth that sustainability is expensive, which is not always the case. Yeah. For example, we are doing wooden spoons. And at first, everybody thought, gosh, wooden spoons are going to be so expensive. Guess what we found out, Terian? They were cheaper.
Wow.
Yeah, they were cheaper. Everyone was like, what? Are you sure? Did you check the numbers? So pretty much it just means that everything that we're doing is a test, and that test is going to have a longer last. Like, for example, once we truly ascertain that, yes, we used wooden spoons on the flight and it was actually cheaper by X%, there's actually no reason why we shouldn't have now wooden spoons going forward. It's those little experiments that we get to do, the cost benefit analysis that helps us to drive different business cases across the company that actually give that impact or long lasting impact of the Aviation Challenge.
Grace, tell us a little bit about the previous TAC. And I know you have alluded to 2023 in terms of the awards. Just tell us a little bit about it, because it was changed to the TAC from the Sustainable Flight Challenge, and there were editions that KQ participated in. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, actually, just starting from the name itself, it used to be the Sustainable Flight Challenge, just like you said. And the reason it was changed is what you alluded to earlier when it comes to greenwashing. Because let me give you a small story. There's a time that I had taken my daughter to hospital. She was admitted for some minor something. And so I was looking around when they were serving meals. And every time they brought Milo, I would check out the sachet. And it would always talk about, like, when you take this drink, you're going to become brighter, you're going to grow faster.
Yeah.
So typically, that is what greenwashing is. It just means that you over exaggerate. It might be true that when I take a cup of Milo, I'm actually going to be sharper. I don't know. Maybe. And maybe there's other factors that would make me sharper, or maybe it would make me grow taller. Who knows? Or maybe it's just in my genes. Who knows? Yeah. So it's neither here nor there. So when you call it, the Sustainable Flight Challenge, you're actually implying that everything on that flight is 100% sustainable, which is not true, because we are having emissions. So that one, a climate activist can easily go to court and win, which has happened many times also with our airline counterparts, different parts of the world. Some have actually been sued, and the person who sues always wins these cases around greenwashing. So that's why first the name was changed to the Aviation Challenge, because you cannot truly ascertain that everything that we're doing is 100% sustainable. And then, so what's in 2022, that's the award that we won was in the best partnership. At that time, it was with NAS. So What we achieved at that time was a partnership around organic meals on board. What we are doing different this time is extending that further, because when it comes to sustainability, there's like an opportunity to actually do supply development. Like you kind of grow with your supply. So what we did with NAS this time is that we started doing audits for their farmers, whereby they're not like farmers from their list, but helping those farmers to be more sustainable in terms of the energy that they use in their farms and making sure that they're producing 100% organic kind of fertilizers that they use. So that's a step further that we've gone this year, working with NAS just to make sure that behind the scenes with also nursing suppliers, we're actually having a chain that has sustainable practices cutting across all the way into the airline. And then for last year, what I'd mentioned was our first trial of sustainable aviation fuel. There we were trying to understand and learn the actual supply chain of like how much does it cost. And actually we had some really good learnings. For example, the fuel that we bought was 7 times more expensive than the regular fossil fuel that we use at A1. And so some of the questions we're asking ourselves is how can we make this cost reduce? Because truly that kind of cost is very hard for us to sustain. Part of what we came up with was actually, can doing a local supply of this fuel be cheaper since these feedstocks already come from here? So that's what I can say about the previous challenges and what we are doing different from what we've already done in the past.
Beyond the aviation challenge, what else is KQ doing to enhance sustainability? And you've talked and touched on a few or some of the sustainable practices that KQ has taken on. In case there's one that you have not mentioned, could you touch on
Yeah.
it?
Yes, I would want to talk about tree planting. People and organizations plant trees for many reasons. Yeah. But for us as Kenya Airways, we see that we have a role to play when it comes to climate action and mitigation. Like you remember the last time that we had floods everywhere in the country. Our planes couldn't take off and land in some areas. We had to wait it out before you can go and land. So climate action directly affects our operations. And one of the ways that we see is important for us to participate in mitigating is actually planting of trees. And did you know, Cherian, we actually have a 1 million strong forest in Gom. Oh, yeah. That was planted 10 years back with the different partners. It was done over about 6 years. It's now 10 years old. In fact, this year during the World Environment Day, we went to have a treasure hunt there just for staff to appreciate the forest. Personally, I had never seen that forest and I was shocked to see it. Like it's really maturing. It already has a canopy. There's animals that have come back that never used to exist there. It used to be bare land, just grass. And now it's actually a thriving, huge forest of about 1 million trees. Those are the things that we want to continue doing, creating more and more KQ forests. A lot of the passengers that we carry are tourists. We want them to come back to a beautiful country, to a beautiful Kenya. So that's actually why we plant trees. And then over and above that, in our quest for local sustainable aviation fuel, we discovered that actually there's tree species that are best for producing sustainable aviation fuel. So we are putting a spin to it and working with different communities to actually plant trees that can produce SAF, which will produce also an income to those communities because you probably just harvest the seeds or the leaves and coming up with a way where actually we can be able to collect that and pay the different people who are doing that kind of work. And that way we get our stuff, you get the trees, you enjoy the trees, and we pay you for the seeds or the leaves or the plants that you give us for the manufacture of stuff. So that is a one that I would highlight.
I'm still curious about SAF, and I just want to roll back on that if that's okay. Where is
Sure.
local sustainable aviation fuel being produced in Kenya?
It's a biofuel
Mm-hmm.
produced from natural stuff. And sometimes it is even produced from waste, used cooking oil and such like things. So all that undergoes a chemical process. And then out of it comes out a liquid that is a fuel that is 100% has consistencies of jet A1. That is sustainable aviation fuel. So like 100% when you take it to the lab, it is actually jet A1, just that it didn't come from fossil. We didn't drill and get crude oil and then processed it. So that way it becomes sustainable fuel. That's why it's called a sustainable aviation fuel. And this fuel, when you burn it, it actually reduces emissions by 80%, 80%.
Wow.
So you see, that's very significant.
Oh, wow. Oh, thank you. Thanks for sharing that. I'm just challenging my friend Mokai of Mwango that perhaps we need another conversation on sustainable aviation fuel, and not
Yeah.
just from a local perspective, but what that entirely means for the industry in terms of sustainability and reduction of carbon emissions. I think that's quite an interesting space to look at. We're coming to the end of our conversation, although I will take some questions from the audience. Still on sustainability, how can your passengers and customers contribute to this improvement in sustainability? Because we all have a role to play.
We included sustainability related kind of questions in our surveys for passengers. So we've actually gotten some good feedback between Q1 and Q2. Most passengers seem to be concerned about the amount of single-use plastic that we have on board. So that's something that we are beginning to address slowly. And actually, by the end of this year, we should be able to actually account for visible improvements on board when it comes to the use of single-use plastic. So there's that. And we actually have a portal, a KQ portal called My Idea Portal, where staff use it to put in ideas, but also other stakeholders can. For example, yourself, Terian, you can put in an idea in there. If you put your name, then we can give you updates of how far we've processed your idea and what's happening with your idea. But also you can still put an idea anonymously. The only thing is that we won't know who you are. We will appreciate the idea, but we can't give you any updates. So there's those two ways in which customers can actually be engaged in the sustainability journey of Kenya Airways.
All right. Grace, I'm just going to take one or two questions from our audience, and then I'll hand it over to Kaya of Mwango Capital, and then we will call it a day. So we've got a question from Edward Kip Kalia. He says, how does Kenya Airways plan to address potential conflicts between sustainability goals and the need for profitability in an increasingly competitive market?
Thanks for that question. That kind of ties into what we were talking about earlier in terms of a lot of times sustainability is thought to be expensive. And how I view it is that actually there's ways that sustainability can help to reduce costs. So in many words, I'm saying it's not really a conflict. It's about how can we be smart enough and strategic enough to make sure that our sustainability initiatives are contributing to profitability as opposed to taking away from profitability. So that can include just having to think out of the box and be creative. And for me, that's the one thing I really love about my combined role of innovation and sustainability. Because on the one hand, we have this and have to drive this creative thinking. Yes, this is what we need to do. How can we do it in a way that is actually bringing profit to the company as opposed to taking out profit from the company?
Oh, great. Thank you so much. We've got a comment from somebody who's called Arno Mali, so I don't think that's his name. He says currently there's no legal framework regarding SAF, just on Jet A1. Kenya Airways and KCAA should take lead for the formulation of regulations of SAF. They will also incentivize investors such as E&I who actually don't produce the SAF in country but in Italy.
Yes, so that is correct that in country here in Kenya and largely in Africa, we don't actually have SAF framework and policies. And yes, we have been taking the lead based on all the work that we've been doing that I've explained to you. We've worked with KCA quite closely to get to a point where right now we have a steering committee of the formulation of SAF policies in the country, of which KCA holds quite a number of membership slots on that committee. And so the vision is that soon enough we will be having the SAF policies in the country. So basically, I'm just saying that yes, that is ongoing. When it comes to the investors, it is true. A lot of investors are waiting to see what's the country saying about SAF. Are there going to be any tax advantages that they're going to have? Are there going to be any mandates from the government that will popularize the use of SAF? So all that is going to be covered in that policy that will be developed. I think that's what I would talk about regarding that.
All right. Thanks so much. I see that most of the questions have been responded to, but I see James Popula, he's posted a picture of headsets and he says, nice headset. It's still working since July 2022. Are we supposed to take the headsets out of the plane?
No, please don't take the headsets out. That is how you're reducing our profit because we have a new pair of headsets. But you can carry away them Safari magazine. That's the one thing you can take out from the plane. So please don't carry our blankets. Actually, our crew told us that the thing that people ask the most about, Terian, would you take a guess what that is from the plane? They say, can we carry this? Guess what it is?
That people take the most?
No, or maybe
the
they
plane.
take
Is
the
it the
ones who ask,
blanket?
the ones who the ones who have the courtesy to ask, can I take this?
Is
What
it
do
a
you think it
blanket?
is that they ask? No.
What? The spoons?
Keep guessing. No, you're closer. It's something cutlery-ish. Keep going.
I would say either the spoons or the blanket because I always want to take the blanket. I never have, but I wanted to take a blanket.
Imagine
That's so nice.
it's the business class salt shaker.
Really?
Yes, it's so tiny and so
Yes,
cute.
those are nice.
People just, can we carry this? Of course, there are those who carry without asking, but people somehow really love that salt shaker.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. We're talking about the headsets.
The headsets.
Yes. So please don't carry away my headset. Still belongs to the company.
It still
Yes.
belongs to the
But you can
company.
carry away the magazine.
Yeah.
That's the only
Okay.
thing you can take away from the plane.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. We can call it a day. We've had a wonderful conversation, Grace. And before I hand it to Mokaya, your closing remarks, what are some of the things that have stayed in your mind as you took us through this conversation?
There is one of my most favorite quotes. I can't remember who said it, but I can
Okay.
paraphrase it.
Okay.
That when you look at things differently, like maybe like you change your mind about how you think about a certain thing, those things that you're looking at
Mm-hmm.
change. They change.
Oh,
So when you think differently about something, that thing that you're looking at changes. Like either it gains value in your eyes or you get a new idea you hadn't thought about.
yeah. Oh, I found it. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.
That one.
Yeah.
When you change the way you look at things, the things that you look at change.
Oh, by
So
Wayne Dyer.
yes. When
Okay.
it comes to sustainability, that is exactly the same way. If you think, oh my gosh, this is going to be so expensive for a company, this is something that's for big, old, rich companies, cannot be attained. It is not for Africans, because also we have people in that club. This sustainability thing, not
Mm,
for Africans.
mhm.
Yeah. So if you change the way you look at that and the way you think about that,
Yeah.
it will change for you. Yeah. And you'll begin to think about different ways of doing those same things. You begin to come up with new solutions to old ideas or even to new problems that you're facing. So that would be my quote. Please read it again, Terian.
It's when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And that's a quote by Dr. Wayne Dyer.
Yes. So there's also more to talk about this. We'll be releasing our sustainability reports at the end of this year, and it will have a lot more detail of the very big and small things that we've been doing across the year. So you get to see that as well.
All right. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. I have been speaking with
You're
Grace,
welcome.
and Grace is the Manager, Innovation and Sustainability at Kenya Airways, and she has taken us through the strategic approach to sustainability by Kenya Airways, as well as Kenya Airways' participation in the Aviation Challenge, which is a global challenge. KQ, as she mentioned, is the only African airline taking part in the Aviation Challenge, which will be done over the next couple of weeks. So thank you so much, Grace. Thank you all so much for being part of this conversation. I want to hand it over to Mokaya of Mwango Capital to wrap this up.
Thank you, Tiriam. Thanks, Grace, for the really lovely conversation with KQ. It's the first time we're hosting Kenya Airways on our spaces here. So we hope this is the first of many. And as Teriana said, she's really interested in learning more about SAF. So we hope for more conversations like this. So thank you so much for taking time on a Friday evening to actually join spaces. We don't take it for granted. Thanks you once again. Terian, asante sana pia for hosting us. We look forward to having you host more spaces going forward. And Grace, let that not be your last time. It was really nice hanging out with you on a Friday evening.
Okay. Thank you so much.
All right.
Bye.
All right. Good night, everyone, and have a wonderful weekend, and God bless.